Long exposure photography. One second. One minute. One hour.
Hello, I'm Piotr, and welcome to the third episode of the Long Exposure Photography series. I hope you have enjoyed the journey so far. In this chapter, I'll be discussing ND filters and the apps I use for this project. Let's jump right in. What's the purpose of using ND filters? They play an important role in both photography and filmmaking. In photography, their primary function is to slow down the shutter speed, which opens up a world of creative possibilities. To illustrate this, let's take a trip to the time square. I will show you 5 different combinations of shutter speed and filters. The first shot I took without any filters. The exposure was set to f16 and 1/30 of a second. For the second shot, I used a red filter with an exposure of f16 at 1/4 of a second. Why do I use a red filter? Primary purpose is to enhance the drama of the sky when shooting with black and white film. Although similar effects can be achieved in post-production, I prefer to capture as much as possible in camera for more authentic results. Additionally, it serves as a natural density filter at the same time. For the third shot, I used an ND4 filter paired with red filter with an exposure of f16 at 1 second. The fourth shot featured an ND64 filter and red filter with an exposure of f16 and 1 minute. Finally, for the fifth shot, I utilized the ND1000 filter along with the red filter with an exposure of f16 at 1 hour. All images were captured using a Mamiya RZ67 PRO II with a 50mm lens, with ILFORD Pan F plus film exposed at 50 ISO. There are several types of ND filters, but for our discussion, let's focus on 2 primary categories. Fixed ND filters. These filters uniformly darken the entire image. Variable ND filters. This allows you to adjust the filter's density by rotating the front element. So, which should you choose? Personally, I lean towards fixed filters. The main advantages are their superior optical quality and slightly lower cost. However, I mentioned variable ND filters for a reason. There are situations where adjusting the strength or darkness level is necessary. Let me illustrate this with an example. I was capturing long exposure photos during the New York City Marathon, and the weather was constantly shifting. Calculating exposure with fixed ND filters would have been nearly impossible, so I opted for a variable ND filter instead. Here are the results. However, before moving forward, I would like to share something that surprised me. Please take a look at the negative itself. I find it visually intriguing. What are your thoughts on this? I could discuss ND filter for hours, but to keep this video practical, I skip the details here. If you are interested in learning more, I highly recommend checking out this article, A Guide to Neutral Density Filters, link in the description below. There is significant competition in the market for ND filters, and I don't believe there is a clear superior choice. After conducting thorough research, I highly recommend the following option. 1. The NEEWER Fixed ND Filter Kit, which includes ND1000, ND64, ND8 and ND4 filters, offers high quality and an affordable price. My personal favorite choice for long exposure photography is the Gobe ND512 9 stubs ND filter 2-peak, known for its exceptional quality. And 3. The K&F Concept True Color Variable ND2 to ND32 1:5 stubs ND lens filter features adjustable natural density with 28 multi-layer coating. You can find the links to those choices in the description below. Let's move on to the next chapter, exploring apps for your smartphone that can greatly simplify your artistic journey. Let's jump! Here we are. I use 4 apps for capturing long exposure photos on film: Viewfinder, myLightMeter, NEEWER Pro, and Film Reciprocity. These apps are arranged on my screen in the order I'll be using them from left to right. Let's begin with the Viewfinder. Before I start a new project, I often travel with my iPhone to determine the lens and composition I'm going to use in the final picture. For this, I use the Viewfinder. First, go to the settings in the upper right corner. Under Film Emulation, scroll to select the film you plan to use. Done. Then select your desired metering system on the left. Next, set the ISO for your film exposure. Next, select the aperture you plan to use. Finally, select the exposure time. Now go to the bottom left corner. Select the camera format you want to use. If it's not there, scroll down and hit Edit menu. I'll use 6 by 7 centimeters. Done. Then choose the aspect ratio. I highly recommend using native. Done. And finally go to the right and choose the focal length of your lens. If it's not there, scroll down and press Edit menu. Add the lens you want to use. Done. Okay, let's go to the location of my next project to decide which lens I will use. Here we are. This is a less known location where the Long Island Expressway entered the Midtown Tunnel. Let's try a few lenses. Here is the final result. What do you think? Which lens would be your choice? 50mm, 65mm, 110mm, 140mm, 210mm, or 350mm. I hope you find this app very useful. Let's shift to the right. Here is an app I have mentioned in a previous episode, myLightMeter. This is a very powerful tool, but let's focus on the things you need to know to get started with this meter. myLightMeter has 2 interfaces, Pro and Classic. I absolutely love the Classic. It gives me the feeling of holding a real light meter. It has both incident and reflected light metering modes. Since we are going to be shooting landscape or cityscapes, we'll be using the reflected mode. Make sure that the small dot is next to the letter R. Then set the ISO and voila, ready to go. To demonstrate the accuracy of this meter app, I will conduct a test comparing the reading from this app on my iPhone 14 Pro with those from a professional Minolta Spotmeter F. To achieve this, we will use a gray card. First, let's take a precise 1 degree spot metering with Minolta Spotmeter. Now, let's do it with myLightMeter app. Make sure you bring your phone close to the gray card so that only the gray card is visible in the window. Let's compare the results. Identical. Another app that will make your life a lot easier is NEEWER Pro. It's incredibly easy to use. Let's take a quick look. On the right side is the shutter speed from your light meter. Let's say it's 1/60th of the second. We will use an ND16 filter and the adjustment exposure is 1/4 of the second. Sometimes you might end up using more than one filter. Let's say we want to add another ND filter to drastically increase the exposure time. Let's add an ND64 filter. And as you can see, the exposure time is now 16 seconds. I would recommend using no more than 2 filters at a time. Each additional filter, even the best quality, will slightly reduce the image quality. In the paid Pro version, you have access to an additional feature, the filter bag. When preparing for your trip, you can customize your filters you intend to bring with you. And the last one, which is extremely important, it's film reciprocity. Perhaps most photographers who shoot on film are familiar with this term, the failure of the reciprocity effect, also known as the Schwarzschild effect. If you are shooting with the exposure of 1/10,000 to half of the second, you don't have to worry about this. No adjustment is required. If the measured exposure is longer than 1 second, you need to adjust it. Each black and white film has a different characteristic, so you need to adjust the shutter speed accordingly. Since I will shoot on the ILFORD Pan F Plus film, please check out the information about this film on the ILFORD website. Does this look like a science? Yes, it is. But open the app. Select the film you are currently shooting. Next, please enter the adjusted time from the NEEWER Pro app. Let's say it was 32 seconds. The corrected, or if you prefer, adjusted time is now 100.4 seconds. So simple. Before I discovered this app, I used a calculator on my iPhone. Let's open the scientific calculator. Step 1. Enter the measured time. In our example, it is 32 seconds. Next, press X to the power of Y and enter the index from the ILFORD website for this film, which is 1.33. Voila! The corrected time is 100.4 seconds. Before moving forward, let's explore an example that illustrates the impact of ignoring the reciprocity effect. For this demonstration, we'll use the DGK lens test. I will capture 3 exposures to show the results. First, no filter. The meter indicates half of the second at f5.6. Let's capture this photo. Second, now I will attach the ND64 filter. Let's calculate the exposure using the Viewfinder Pro app, and the adjusted shutter speed is 32 seconds. Let's take this photo. Third one. Next, I will use the ND512 filter. Using the Viewfinder Pro app, the adjustment shutter speed is 256 seconds. Let's take this photo. And here is the result. As you can see, the exposure for the first image is correct, while the second is underexposed. And the third is even more underexposed. Okay, let's do this properly using the Film Reciprocity app. First shot, no filter. The meter reads half of the second and f5.6. Let's take this photo. Second, let's put the ND64 filter on. Let's calculate the exposure using the Viewfinder Pro app. The adjusted shutter speed is 32 seconds. Then use the Film Reciprocity app to get the correct exposure, which is 100.4 seconds. Let's take this photo. Third one. This time I will use the ND512 filter. Let's calculate the exposure with the Viewfinder Pro app. The adjusted shutter speed is 256 seconds. Then use the Film Reciprocity app to get the correct exposure, which is 1595.7 seconds. Let's take this photo. Take a look at the results. And finally, compare the images before and after adjustment. Let's go back to the studio. In the next episode, I will discuss one of my favorite topics, black and white film, or the negative if you will. Ansel Adams, often regarded as the father of landscape photography, once compared photography to music, saying, "The negative is the equivalent of the composer's score and the print is its performance." See you soon in the next episode, The Negative. Before I go, I would like to show you my favorite take from this episode.
If you enjoyed this video, be sure to subscribe.